This is part 2 of the Miracles and the Eclipses. As stated in part 1, I am not a prophet. I am only a servant of the Most High.
We start off in Ezekiel 7. For thus says Yahweh, behold, the end is come. Behold the day of Yah. Although the rod has blossomed, that's Messiah, pride has sprung up and will break the staff of the wicked one, and not with tumult, not with haste. The time has come, behold the day. Now from Daniel 5, we had a story of a king who was a heathen, and he brought out the vessels of the Most High and had a party with the vessels, worshiping their idols. And a hand came up and wrote a message on the wall, and they were very frightened. And Daniel came in and gave the interpretation of the message. Manah, Takal, Ufasarim, what Daniel saw on the wall. Manah, Elohim has measured, numbered your kingdom, and finished it. That was the first word spoken to the king. Manah, the Most High has numbered your kingdom, and it is done. It's finished. Now let's start talking about this eclipse. April the 8th, 2024 is a coming total eclipse of the sun that's going through the United States. As we have mentioned before, there is much deception in this world. Deception covers this world. And there's a narrative right now that this eclipse is the sign of Jonah. Jonah code, the sign of Jonah, the sign of the whale, Nineveh, and the great repenting. I remind you of what Yahushua said for these end times. Many false prophets shall rise, and those false prophets shall deceive many. Remember those words through these times. False prophets, those who speak false doctrines and make false predictions based on their false doctrines, shall rise. Many of them, many will be deceived. So what's this sign of Jonah? It's a deception. They're saying that there are 7 Ninevehs in the path, which means that this is the sign of Jonah. Well, guess what? If you happen to look and do some digging and test all things, you'll find out there are not 7 Ninevehs in this path. There are 2. And one is a township. They're not cities, they're not towns. It's a township and an unincorporated community. They said that one of the towns that was in the path of totality was Nineveh, Virginia. Virginia. So you're telling me that the eclipse path takes a detour and a U-turn to get to Virginia and then comes back to the path of totality to finish the job. People just don't search for the truth anymore. A narrative gets put on to a false prophet channel or social media, and now it spreads like wildfire because that's the deception, and the prince of the power of this world spreads it like wildfire out through all the channels, pops up on everybody's channels, and then pastors, mainstream pastors, see it and make an eclipse video because everybody else is, and they grab this stuff together and they use the false doctrine in mainstream messages. That's what's happening. It doesn't end with the people being deceivers. Something has come up lately called artificial intelligence, AI. It is now in almost everything associated with technology. They call it a great tool, huge efficiencies, blah, blah, blah. Artificial intelligence lies also. You put a question in and ask, are there really 7 Ninevehs in this solar eclipse path? And you get from one of the artificial intelligence applications called Grok. Yes, it is true. And here's all 7 of them, and one's in Virginia. That is truly artificial intelligence at work, isn't it? It's not just this one particular application. ChatGPT, which is a more famous chatbot AI, it says an almost identical answer to what its competitor says. Something's going on. Can you see it? Can you see this web of deception, even between competing companies, to say the same narrative to deceive the many? This is the world of deception that we live in. His word is truth. The world is a deception. Do not listen to artificial intelligence. And here's something else. The merchants were the great men of the earth, for by their sorceries were all nations deceived. Now we know about the sorceries probably of the guy on the right, our friend Bill. He gave us a medical treatment a few years ago, and if you look in Revelation, it says pharmakia under this verse for sorceries. The Greek word for sorceries is pharmakia. Shot, hello. What's our friend Elon in the middle doing now? He's got a new version of sorceries. He's got a chip that's almost an inch wide. Elon wants to drill a hole in your head and stick that chip in it. And now you'll be connected with the greater intelligence of the world. All the artificial intelligence you'll have in your head. And that's the robot that he intends to use on people. And he's already started with a first test subject. Somebody's had a hole drilled into their head willingly, and there'll be more. That is another sorcery. We are watching prophecy coming to fulfillment before our very eyes. The merchants are also those 10 kings. Revelation 17. It says, the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive power as kings for a short time with the beast. Who has the power in the world right now? Who's dictating to governments on medical practices? Who's helping out wars between Ukraine and Russia with their communication and satellites? It's the great merchants who are the great men that don't have a kingdom, but they're receiving power as kings because they're working for the beast. Now, it says 10 kings. I'm showing 3 right there. Why am I not showing 10? Well, number 1, I'm not a prophet. Number 2, there's this thing called the 9th commandment. Thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. So I'm not ready to speak on anyone else and point to them and say they are one of the 10 kings that have received power with the beast. These 3 gentlemen are leading the pack. These are the front men for it. And understand this is a show. This is a plan. So you have to have somebody out front taking the heat, taking the arrows while it's being worked behind the scenes. There are shadow kings in effect. We could name a few families from the past.
Right?
Yes. He's been named as one of, if not the most powerful men in America. There are 7 more right now. Some are in the shadows. I'm not ready to speak on any other person except for these 3 people that we have enough proof to show what they're doing. What about all of this stuff that's happening? It seems like they're telling me what I want to look at, my advertisement, even before I thought about it. Or I've spoken about something and now it's right in front of me. Well, what's happening is called artificial intelligence and the linking of all things, the networking of all things. So all these guys at the bottom have an artificial intelligence interface to people. Alexa, Siri, ChatGPT, the Microsoft products, the first one that failed, they're trying another one, Facebook/Meta, and Google Assistant. All of those supposedly help us, but behind the scenes, the intelligence is artificial intelligence pulling these things together. Hey, Siri, they're listening to you. They don't turn the microphone off. They're always listening to you. They're always recording every single thing that's on the phone while you have it on. So how do they know what you like and what you were thinking about and what you might purchase? Because they've been listening. They hear your words, they hear the sounds around you, and they can put the sounds around you to figure out where you are spatially. They've got the GPS to know where you are, and they can listen to the sounds and put together a 3D image because of the artificial intelligence ability to understand what this waveform is and put it all together. That's how they know what you're thinking. Behind the scenes are those artificial intelligence platforms. OpenAI, which some people may have heard of. DeepMind is behind Google. And they're all competitors. So they're not going to play together, right? They're all trying to conquer the world on their own. But every single phone, unless you disable it, location services. How do location services work? Through GPS. When you ask a question, how do I get to this place? Hey Siri, how do I get there? Or Google. Artificial intelligence, it goes through their platform, and then that connects up to GPS. And GPS is a project of the United States Department of Defense and run accordingly. So GPS is part of the beast. And artificial intelligence is already linked to that beast. There's also central banking digital currency. It's already started in some countries. They're working feverishly to finish the implementation in this country. Cryptocurrency is what that's called. Fiat currency is going to be stopped. It's going to be replaced by central banks so that they can know what each of your transactions is. They'll know where you are when you're making that transaction because you've got GPS. They'll know what you're thinking to buy next, or what you're about to do, or what you want. You're starting to see this picture. Everything's weaving together, a huge spider web of deception. Above that is that globe. That globe is also tied in to the beast. And you might be wondering what that globe is, and I'll tell you in a second. What is artificial intelligence? Guess what? It's in prophecy. Artificial intelligence is shown in prophecy. These all have one mind. Who are these? The 10 kings that we just looked at. These all have one mind and shall give their power and strength to the beast. What happens when a man and a woman come together and they become one flesh? All these 10 kings have come together and now they have one mind. They have one thought process that they want to do and one way to do it, and that's by artificial intelligence and them all linking together. This is a big show. The competitors is a show. They're all working together. What is their thought process behind this? Because artificial intelligence is a tool for something, right? They're doing something with it. What's their plan? Let's look at Job 18:9. It says, He, the common man, shall strengthen those that thirst for the common man's destruction. Did we not all strengthen these great merchants through our purchases over the years? They were nobodies before we bought all of our computers and all of our phones and everything else, and now they are the great merchants. They are the great men. They are part of the 10 kings of the world that now can build this network of artificial intelligence and everything else for their plan to destroy most of mankind. The Georgia Guidestones, right?
Yes.
Everybody should know about the Georgia Guidestones. They put their plan up front. They are enacting it right now. What was that globe? Does anybody remember this picture? Really strange, sort of a creepy picture when it came out. The globe connects to AI. What is the globe, though? It represents the global center for combating extremist ideology. How about that? This is in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The Ideological War Center aims to correct what it calls, quote-unquote, misguidance about Islam through many channels. The stated purpose of the center is to actively and proactively combat, expose, and refute extremist ideologies in cooperation with governments and organizations. And we just saw some of those organizations in the last page. Remember, they're all working together. Combating rational, media, and statistical extremism, strengthening Islamic moderation principles in the world, and observing and analyzing extremist groups' ideological activities and engaging in confronting those extremist ideas. They started off back then saying, this is for ISIS. We've got to stop ISIS because we're moderate Muslims, and that's an extremist position, so we're going to combat that. What happens if they broaden their term for an extremist ideology to those that actually try to keep covenant with him and try to keep Sabbath? Then we would be part of that extremist ideology that they are now proactively combating, observing, analyzing, and engaging. Who's the president there? You might say, that's just the Middle East. That's just the Arab countries. Okay, we know about China. They've got the social credit score, right? That they can monitor everybody and cut off their ability to buy or sell or even travel if they are not doing enough of what the Chinese government tells them to do. That's enforced right now. This is America. America. That'll never happen here. It already has happened. It's called the Patriot Act. This was signed by a president in 2001 in response to the towers falling. That'll be a different day. What did the Patriot Act do? It expanded surveillance abilities of law enforcement, including wiretapping of domestic and international phones. It allows easier interagency communication to allow federal agencies to more effectively use all available resources, which is now artificial intelligence, in counterterrorism efforts, increased penalties for terrorism crimes, and here's something interesting, an expanded list of activities which would qualify for terrorism charges. An expanded list, and it's not stopping. permission to use law enforcement to search property and records without the owner's consent or knowledge. So who's using Siri and Alexa and Google Assistant and Meta? It's not just those great men. It's being fed into this Patriot Act, because now they can monitor anything that you're doing and any email that you have without you even knowing it. And it's for the good of the defense of the country, per their terms. This Patriot Act was extended by a president in 2012, and it was updated that the FBI can now wiretap, search emails and business records and conduct surveillance of quote-unquote lone wolves. So you don't have to be a member of an extremist organization like, say, a Nazi organization or an extreme racial organization. You can be a lone wolf, an individual that has an ideology that they do not accept and they list as extreme. That means they can now target anybody that they so choose. And all of this is implemented. The name was changed to the Freedom Act in 2015, and then in 2020 it was split into two different measures. Why? As a means of explaining to the public that the Patriot Act would no longer openly be in effect. They tried to tell the people that the Patriot Act expired in 2019. Oh, but wait. They had two other measures, and they put everything else into it. It's already in the weave, the spider's web of the beast, the shadow government, whatever you want to call it. It's already there, and they're not going to stop using it. They have that power. They're going to keep using it, and it's going to keep increasing in these end times where we're promised tribulation like has never happened before. The great merchants who are the great men, for by their sorceries were all nations deceived. The merchants are those 10 kings that don't have a kingdom, but they're receiving power as kings. These all have one mind called artificial intelligence and shall give their power and strength for a short time to the beast. Your cell phone is not your friend. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the great merchants that we just saw, and the rich men and the captains and the mighty men and the bondsmen, they hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. Revelation 6, verse 15. That is also quoted, and said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us. That is quoted in Luke 23, Messiah's own words. It's quoted also in Hosea 10. He that dwells in the heavens, though, shall laugh them to scorn, and Yah shall mock them. As they're getting ready to dive into their bunkers and hide us from the face of him, he laughs. You're building a bunker? You think that's going to help you when the time comes? Who's building a bunker right now? All the great men are. One is out in front. They're all building bunkers right now. You've seen one or two. They're all doing it. Development groups like Atlas Survival Shelters are profiting from a disturbing trend of billionaires building bunkers. It's not just one guy building a bunker in Hawaii. They are all doing it feverishly right now. And Yah shall mock them. And there's another place of interest here for the hiding in the mountains. Now therefore, enter you into the rocks and hide yourselves in the earth for fear of Yahweh, and by the reason of the glory of his might, when he shall arise terribly to strike the earth. For the day of Yah shall be upon everyone on this world that is proud and haughty, and upon everyone that is high and towering. Who are the giants of the world right now? The ones that are towering, the great men? And they shall be brought down. His word. And they shall hide all their idols made with hands, having carried them into the caves and into the clefts of the rocks and into the caverns for fear of Yah. Who is that speaking of? All the great men we were just looking at and talking about. All the billionaires. He's calling them out right here in Isaiah 2. You're going to take your idols down into your bunkers and think they're going to save you. What you are worshiping. For in that day a man shall cast forth his silver and gold abominations, which they made to worship vanities and bats, to enter into the caverns of solid rock and into the clefts of rocks, for fear of Yah. He said it again in that chapter. For emphasis. They've taken their money, they've put it into their so-called defensive positions and the things that they worship, in addition to their gold. The great men said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us in the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? That's Revelation 6, the sixth seal. And so many people read that and think that's when the wrath happens, and we're saved before the wrath. So that's when the rapture is. But remember, he shall speak to them in his anger and then trouble them in his fury. First he laughs them to scorn, then he shall speak to them in anger, and then he shall trouble them in his fury. 3 different things. What is anger here? It's to teem in Greek. It's denoting an internal motion, an agitation of the soul, especially anger. But that anger remains within. The anger is boiling, it's rising, but it's not released yet. He shall speak to them in his anger, that anger remains within. And then he shall trouble them, and that's putting it lightly, in his fury. What's fury? Anger forthwith, boiling up and bursting out. That's wrath. That's his wrath. For I, Yah, shall speak my words, I shall speak and perform, and will no more delay. For in your days, O provoking house, I will speak the word, and I will perform it immediately, says Yahweh. In the old days, the prophecy, they've lingered for hundreds, if not thousands of years. He spoke a prophecy, and it's been out there. His word, his warning has been waiting, it's been lingering until these end times. But now, he says, for this time right now, I will speak my words, I will speak them and perform them immediately. I will no more delay. I will speak and they will happen. These are the times we're walking into right now. And remember, we are all promised tribulation. He said it. In the world, you shall have tribulation. Every single one will have tribulation. He is no respecter of persons. There is no get out of jail free card for any particular person or denomination. You shall have tribulation. Tribulation has begun all the way from the Garden of Eden, in case you haven't recognized it. It's just getting worse and worse now. Revelation 12. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth! The devil has come down to you having great wrath. Because he knows his time is short, and when the dragon saw that he is cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman. The woman was given 2 wings of the great eagle, where she might fly into the wilderness, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. When we look at the great wrath of Satan, wrath means, it's the same word that we were just looking at for fury. Fury. Right here is G2372. Wrath is G2372. Anger boiling up and bursting out. What does that mean? The great wrath of Satan, which it says plainly in Revelation 12:12, the great wrath of Satan, which lasts a time, times, and half a time, 3.5 years, is the great tribulation. It says so explicitly in the scriptures. There shall be a time of tribulation. Such tribulation has not been from the time that there was a nation on earth until that time, and that time is coming soon. For a time and times and half a time. Daniel 12 speaks of the same 3.5 years that Revelation 12 did. 3.5 years in both of them. Daniel 12 calls it a great tribulation. Revelation 12 calls it the wrath of Satan. And how do we know for sure? Do we need another witness? Scripture gives us another witness. Revelation 16, and I heard a great voice out of the temple. Who's in the heavenly temple right now? Who has the great voice that thunders? And when he came down to Mount Sinai, it shook like great thunders. We know who that is. It's our Savior. Yahushua, speaking out of the temple, saying to the 7 angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of Elohim upon the earth. He says in Revelation 16, that is the time of the wrath of the Most High. And that wrath word is also G2372, which is the anger boiling up and then burst out with the pouring of the vials of Revelation 16. So then I ask you, who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe your Savior when he speaks it plainly in the scriptures? Or are you going to believe the great men of the earth that said the wrath of the Lamb is coming in Revelation 6? Have we recognized that our friends Bill and Elon and the rest of them lie to us? Have we seen that? Do their tools, their artificial intelligence, do they not lie to us also? Do we trust man or him? The great men, do they even know the scriptures well enough? Neither do they understand all things. So they think they do, and they will say those things, and we will hear these things. And we're already starting to hear them. Here's a screen capture I took of something that says, unbelievers know the rapture is coming. UFOologists, world leaders, mediums, remote viewers, and the military all know the rapture is coming right now. What does Revelation 6 say? It says, kings of the earth, there you go, world leaders, chief captains of the mighty men, there's your military, and every other man, there's your remote viewers. They're all saying the same thing. It's a narrative. It's deception. Some of them know the truth, but they're going along with the narrative and the lies, just like some doctors knew the truth a few years ago, but they went along with the deception, the lies also. For the love of money is the root of all evil. Don't believe those great merchants. Don't believe a word that comes out of their mouths. You can hear it, but then know that they're just speaking a narrative, and then you can see what the narrative is underneath their words. Another screen capture of a channel says, Elon warns the rapture is going to happen very soon. Now, I went through that video. I did not hear him actually say that. He said some other things, so I'm not saying that he said those words exactly. But this is a narrative. Can you see the narrative coming up? And it's going to come out like wildfire, just like the pandemic came out like wildfire. Just like what we just saw about the sign of Jonah and the eclipse coming out like wildfire. This is how it happens time and time and again. This is the method of the adversary to deceive. So when they say these things, do not believe men because men deceive. Believe the word of truth. These guys might look like choir boys to you, smiling big. They might tell you nice things, but who's behind them? I already showed that they're working for the beast. They gave their strength and power, their one mind to the beast. Who's behind them? Who's their power? Satan. Yeah. Isaiah 41. Your judgment draws nigh, says Yah. Your counsels have drawn nigh. They've come. Let your counsels draw nigh. Let them come and declare to you what things shall come to pass. Their counsels are going to declare to the world what things shall come to pass. That's the narrative I'm talking about. I didn't make it up. It's right there in Isaiah 41. The leaders of the world have a narrative and a deception. Their counsels, driven by their intelligence, their one mind, to declare to the whole world what these things shall be and shall come to pass. All of their things that they've been talking about. Or tell us what things were of old, and we will apply our own reasoning and understanding to it, and then understand history and the beginnings of things and what things look like. And what does Scripture say about that? Timothy, keep that which is committed to your trust. What's in his trust? The word. Avoiding oppositions of science, falsely so called. It's part of the deception nowadays. They're using science to deceive. And anybody that thinks they're starting to get smart by learning the science gets caught in that part of the great deception. And they start veering off of the narrow path and start getting lost in the wisdom of man, which is foolishness before Yah. So his word tells us the way things used to be and the way things were created. Science is a lie. It's a lie. Declare you to us the things that are coming on at the last time, and then we shall know that you, the great men, are gods. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Declare to us the things that are coming in the future, and when they happen, then we'll know that you are gods. Are they not even now predicting things, and then they come to pass? They predicted pandemics with their exercises and little warnings, and they came to pass. They're predicting more things right now, and they will most likely come to pass. And the people of the earth hear these things that are declared to the world, and they then falsely say, you are gods. You are awesome because you know what's coming, and we put all of our trust for our skin in you because you know what's coming. Do you see that deception?
Yes.
That's what's coming. The great men of the world, the power of this world, and the prince of the power of the air. All those great people, the kings of the earth, do good and do evil, and we shall wonder at it. We'll marvel at these things. And we'll see it at the same time, whence you are and whence is your works. Oh, and they have chosen you an abomination out of the earth. That'll be another message. But do good or do evil, we'll wonder at. Those will be great wonders, works of wonders. Sort of starting to sound like Revelation 13 there a little bit, isn't it? This is a great deception we're in right now. And we're waking up. Glory to him for showing these things to us. Again, Revelation 6, every man hid themselves in the den and the rocks of the mountains, and said to the rocks and the mountains, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. Now let's look at Hosea 10. And on the altars of On, the sins of Israel, in a time they shall be taken away, but they shall say to the mountains, cover us, and to the hills, fall on us. For from the time the hills existed, Israel has sinned. And that's not talking about a pile of rocks or dirt out there in the land of Israel, because the hills of Israel have existed at least since the days of the flood. That was before Israel was Israel. For this prophecy to make any sense, we're not talking about a physical pile of rocks or a physical mound of dirt. From the times the hills existed, Israel sinned. What's the hills? Well, Manasseh did evil in the eyes of Yah. He built again the high places and set up an altar to Baal and made groves and worshipped all the host of heaven and served them. What are the hills that existed from the time that Israel started sinning? The high places, the spiritual high places where the worship to false gods happen. And the land is filled with abominations, the works of their hands, and they have worshipped which their fingers made. They worshiping their own creations. Now therefore you enter into the rocks and hide yourselves in the earth. Is that all coming together now?
Yes.
When they said in Revelation 6, the sixth seal, it's not only building a bunker and hiding in it. It's talking to whom they serve and their idols that they worship. They're calling out on their high places to fall on me, cover me. Who covers us? Messiah covers us with his atoning blood. They're calling on their gods to cover them in the face of this adversity, the pagan gods, and that all links back to Hasatan. Now we know who they are worshiping and whom they're calling out to when they say that. They're not warning the world. They're calling out their other pagan gods. Satan, help us. Something just happened that we were not expecting. We're building our plans to destroy many and take over the world. Georgia Guidestones. But something just happened. Help us. Help us, Baal. Help us, whomever they're praying to. Mother Earth. Blah, blah, blah. That's who they're calling out to in Revelation 6. They provoked him with their high places and then moved him to jealousy with their graven images. He shall laugh them to scorn and mock them. Then he shall speak to them in his anger. Anger still stays inside, but he's speaking to them very sternly. And then he shall trouble them. Then destruction comes in his fury. Psalm 2 is telling us seals, trumpets, vials. Because his wrath comes at the vials, and the speaking in anger is about to start. We're going to talk just a second about ancient Hebrew and how this all ties together. Revelation 1:8, our Messiah said, I am Aleph and Taw, the beginning and the ending, which is and which was and which is to come, the Almighty. Messiah stating at the beginning of Revelation, that's my calling card, that's who I am. Revelation 1:11, 3 verses later, he said it again. I am Aleph and Taw, the first and the last. At the end of the book, he said, it is done. I am Aleph and Taw, the beginning and the end. And then just before Revelation is done and our scriptures are closed, he said one last time, I am Aleph and Taw, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Do you think he's trying to get our attention?
Yes.
He's trying to tell us something. He said it 4 times. I think most of us here know what I am signifies. When Moses was on Sinai at the burning bush, Yah told him to bring my people back here and you will worship me on this mountain. And he said, oh, that's a big task. When they asked me, under whose authority are you doing this? What is his name that is calling you to tell us to come out to the wilderness and leave Egypt? Who is this? And Elohim spoke to Moses saying, I am he who is. The first and the last, which is, which was, and which is to come, says the Almighty. And he spoke it plainly to the Pharisees in John 8. He said, before Abraham was, I am. That's his calling card, saying, this is me. From Exodus to the first coming, and now in Revelation, I'm speaking it again, and I'm coming back, and I don't change. In most of the Bibles, it says Alpha and Omega. And of course, they take that from the Greek. But in the Scriptures, we have evidence of Hebrew and Aramaic spoken. He was from the tribe of Judah. He was a Hebrew. He gave us language, the language of creation, which is Hebrew. He is pure. He is not mixed. Aramaic is mixed language between Assyrian language and Hebrew, mixed all together. He has a Hebrew name. He uses Hebrew letters. So he would have said, I am Aleph and Taw, not Alpha and Omega. So let's remember that for a second. Haggai 2. And the word of Yah came the second time to Haggai the prophet, and he said, I shake the heaven and the earth and the sea and the dry land. I will overthrow the throne of kings, and I will destroy the power of the kings of the nations, and I will overthrow chariots and riders, and the horses and their riders shall come down. In that day, says Yahweh Almighty, I will take you, O Zerubbabel, son of Salathiel, my servant, says Yah, and I will make you as a seal. For I have chosen you, says Yahweh Almighty. That is a ground-shaking prophecy. Now, who is he prophesying there? Who's he talking to as Zerubbabel? Well, who is the son of Zerubbabel and Salathiel? It says so in Luke 3. And our Messiah, Yahushua, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, was the son of the son of the son of Zerubbabel, which was the son of Salathiel, is written in Luke, of a parental lineage.
And Matthew 1 shows the royal lineage of Yahushua through Mary, not Joseph. The word husband from Matthew 1:16 came from the original Hebrew word aish, which is a man of noble quality, as opposed to common, and is recorded in Shem Tov and other ancient Hebrew manuscripts of Matthew. The Aramaic Peshitta provides a second witness of the royal lineage of our Messiah through Mary in Matthew 1. It is translated in the Peshitta as kinsman, which is a different word than husband in Aramaic. Thus, Salathiel was certainly the father of Zerubbabel and certainly in lineage the father of Yahushua HaMashiach.
So when this prophecy is being spoken, the Almighty is not just talking to the Zerubbabel that built the second temple. He's speaking to a future Zerubbabel with qualities associated with him that we're supposed to understand from what was happening in those days. I will take thee, O Zerubbabel, my servant, he said, and I will make you as a seal. I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry lands and make you as a seal. What is a seal? It's a signet. By implication, the stamp impressed as a mark of privacy or genuineness or authority or judgment. A seal. It's like they had wax for a contract and they'd have a ring that had an imprint on it that was uniquely theirs, their signature, their name, a picture, or whatever it was. And each person would stamp this contract, either a small land contract like Jeremiah did, or something bigger, and they'd stamp the wax, it'd cool, and they'd have an imprint of their stamp, which is the signet. That's their signature, signature. So he's going to make our Messiah as a seal, a signet, a stamp impressed, a mark. And there are marks of the Most High. Different subject. What's the seal of his signet ring? All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. What does that signify? He got all power from his Father at that point in time. Matthew 28. What happened to Daniel when he went into the lion's den? The king, though he lamented about it, he had a law and he had to do the law. He had to put Daniel into the lion's den. So they put Daniel in the lion's den. They brought a stone out. They put it on the mouth of the den. And then what did the king do? The king sealed it with his ring. That was his stamp. That was his judgment of this. His judgment of Daniel as Daniel, quote unquote, transgressed the law. So, what about the prodigal son? What happened when the prodigal son returned? The father said to the servants, "Bring forth the best robe, the whitest robe, and put it on him, put sandals on him, and put a ring on his hand." It wasn't a ring for show. It was a ring of the authority of the father in his household. He was now under the father again as his son. He is accepted again. He had the full authority of his power to go off and do contracts with others with the authority of his father because he had his father's signet ring. So when Messiah said, "All power is given unto me in earth and heaven," what's one of the things he got? As Scripture plainly tells us, he got the signet ring of his father because it says, "I will make you as a seal." Now what's he going to do with his signet ring and his stamp? He's going to stamp this country. These are the three paths of the eclipses. I'm sure many of you have seen these. 2017, 2023, 2024. When you look at them, in case anybody hasn't heard this, you can see that shape right there, which just happens to be an ancient aleph that was used in the days of Moses, that the great I Am would have written the Ten Commandments with his very finger. This was his letter aleph used to write the Ten Commandments. Do it the other way, and we have a taw, the X as everybody knows it. There's two letters there, an aleph and a taw. And he said, I am aleph and taw, the beginning and the end. The prophecies have told us he is a seal, he is a signet, he's going to stamp. He's not going to make him as a signet or a seal without doing some stamping. And brothers and sisters, that's the stamp that's coming. This is like the king stamping the lion's den and saying, "It is done, this is judgment, it's done." Shadow pictures of prophecy.
Some do not think that America is in prophecies of the Old Testament. But if you look in 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 10, a prophetic utterance by the mother of Samuel clearly points to the truth. Yahweh will weaken his adversary. Yah has gone up to the heavens and has thundered. He will judge the extremities of the earth, and then he will exalt the horn of his Messiah. And the extremities of the earth in the days of Samuel would include America.
Haggai 2 said, "I shake the heaven and the earth and the sea and the dry land, and I will overthrow the horses and their riders shall come down." What are the horses and the riders that are going to come down? It should be obvious. The first four seals of Revelation have horses and riders, and they will come down. His stamp that he's put over this country is not only judgment for this country, he's announcing to those horses and riders and the powers behind it, judgment, it's time. Do we have anything else in scriptures that shows us? "And thou accordingly, his son, Balthazar, you have not humbled yourself, you have not humbled your heart before Elohim." Don't you know all this? Don't you know what happened to your father Nebuchadnezzar? Didn't you see what happened to him when he did not humble himself and you didn't pay attention? What's changed? Nothing. And you have been exalted against Yahweh. What are the great men doing right now? The great merchants, the kings of the earth. They are being exalted against him. They said, "Tell us these things and you shall be gods. You have praised the gods of gold and silver. Therefore, from his presence has been sent forth the knuckle of a hand." Isn't that interesting? We just saw a signet ring being stamped. And he has ordered this writing that you saw on the wall because they were having that party that we mentioned. They brought out the vessels from the temple of the Most High. They were drinking out of them and making merry. They exalted themselves, and then a hand appeared out of nowhere and wrote 3 words on the wall, and they were greatly frightened. And this is the ordered writing. Manah, Takal, Upharasim. Those are the 3 words in Hebrew. This is the interpretation of that sentence, as Daniel said. Manah. Elohim has measured/numbered your kingdom, and he's finished it. When you look at manah in Hebrew, it says to count, to appoint, to number as a verb. As a noun, it's a weight or a measurement, which is 50 shekels.
This can be seen in Leviticus 27:16.
So it's a measurement that they would put on their scales to balance things out. So manah as a noun in Hebrew was something they'd use on a scale to number. To call, it has been weighed in the balance and found wanting. Your kingdom has been weighed in the balance and is found wanting. To call is Aramaic right here that we have in the scriptures. The Aramaic is equivalent. To call is equivalent to shakal in ancient Hebrew. And in modern Hebrew, shakal is said as shekel. Anybody heard of shekel? It's what they use even today. So manah is 50 shekels. To call is 1 shekel. Upharasim, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. What's that mean? Upharasim, it means and, to split up and divide as a verb. But when they used it as a noun, it was still a unit of measurement, a unit of weight, but it was a half shekel. The shekel is divided in half into 2. Just like judgment was given to him, your kingdom shall be divided. So think about that. The number was 50. There was supposed to be in that measurement 50 for the kingdom. That was the plan for the kingdom. In the end, they only had 1. They were found wanting, deficient. They didn't have enough. They didn't have enough works. They hadn't built up their works. What's the parable of the talents say? If you have 10 and you've gotten another 10, well done, my good and faithful servant. You have another 5, well done, my good and faithful servant. I had 1 and I buried it, so here's the 1 back. You were weighed in the balance and you were found wanting. You didn't do enough. And that was taken from him. The parable of the talents is the same as this. Revelation 18. Manah. Elohim has measured your kingdom and finished it, he said in Daniel. And in Revelation 18, he said, Babylon the Great is fallen. It's judged. It's been numbered and has become the habitation of devils and the hold of every foul spirit and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Every hateful bird, that's described in another message from Job. And then I heard a voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins and that you don't receive her plagues. Has anybody seen any plagues happening in this country lately? Has anybody seen any sin happening in this country? He's telling us, get away from it and get away from it now. Her sins have reached unto heaven and Elohim has remembered her iniquities. What's that? To call. They've been weighed in the balance just like it was back in the day. This kingdom, this great Babylon is being weighed in the balance and it is found wanting. I don't think anybody can deny that at this point. And when he opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And he that sat on it had a pair of balances in his hand. He was measured. The third seal is a measurement. You see it. The third seal is when that measurement was taken and now it's completed and judgment is being given. A denarius, going on Revelation 6:6, a quart of wheat for a denarius and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine. I'm not going to go deep into this, but I will say this. The barley and the wheat are the first 2 harvests, and the oil in prophecy is the word, and the wine is the spirit. So he's telling them, go do your thing right now, but do not hurt the word. You can't touch the word, and you can't touch the ruach. That's what Revelation 6:6 is saying spiritually. Yes, are there famines around the world also. Physically, those things happen too, but we have to look at these things in a spiritual context. Render to her just as she rendered, and repay her double according to her works. In the cup she has mixed, mix double for her. What's that? Upharasim, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. In Isaiah 13 it says, Behold, I will stir up against you the Medes, who do not regard silver, neither they have need of gold. And Babylon, which is called glorious, great Babylon, glorious Babylon, shall be as when Elohim overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. There's judgment coming. There's a fire coming where he marked it. And you saw where he marked it. Her plague shall come in one day, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, as it says in Isaiah 13. Revelation 18 and Isaiah 13 are saying the same thing. And Isaiah 13 just tells us a little bit more, and it matches up with Daniel 5. He's going to stir against this country the Medes, who do not regard silver, nor do they have need of gold. Did ISIS care about gold or silver? Or are they just wanting to destroy things that were not part of their ideology? You see where it's coming. And Daniel 5, the prophecy given to the old kingdom, and now to the new kingdom, this final kingdom, I'm giving you to the Medes and the Persians. I'm dividing this country and I'm giving you. Has anybody seen any dividing lately happening? Yah has brought forth his judgment. He's stirred forth the spirit of the king of the Medes. He's stirred him up, for his wrath is against Babylon to destroy it utterly, and the ruler of the Assyrians. Persians said, I will act in strength and in the wisdom of my understanding. I will remove the boundaries of nations and will spoil their strength. Does that ring true today? Mm-hmm. The walls not built, and now what's there is being torn down and opened up and removed. It's in prophecy. What we're seeing in the news right now is in prophecy in Isaiah 10. The ruler of the Assyrians, the king of Assyria, said, I will remove the boundaries of nations and I will spoil their strength. And you're watching it happen. We all know about Eagle Pass now. This is where the current border crisis and standoff is happening between the governments of the United States and the state of Texas. They're fighting over this because of the overwhelming illegal immigrations that are happening. And by the way, Eagle Pass, Texas, is the first city in the United States where the solar eclipse totality occurs. Judgment. And it's not only in this country. The Schengen area is an area encompassing 27 European countries that have officially abolished border controls at all of their mutual borders. So now it's not Austria and Switzerland and Germany and France anymore in their borders. It's one big Europe, and you can go anywhere inside of those countries in Europe that you want to, and there's no visa, no border patrol checks. What's happening? The millions of Middle Eastern refugees that now have unfettered and unmonitored access to almost every country in Europe. Where did they come from? Medes, Persians.
Yes.
Who's coming into America right now, along with Mexico and Central America and South America, being mixed in with them in deception? Medes, Persians, sleeper cells, and there's a lot of information on that out there. Upharsin, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. And whereas you saw the Daniel 2 now, going back to the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, the statue, whereas you saw the feet and the toes, part of clay, part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. The last kingdom on earth, the last beast on earth, is going to be part clay, part iron, and it's going to be divided, just like it said, Upharsin, your kingdom is divided. And in the days of those kings, Yah shall set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. We rejoice about that. Are we seeing any divisions in this country? Political divisions, racial divisions are popping up for extremist groups. Extremist ideologies from Nazis to anti-Nazis, anti-fascists. You can name everything under the sun, and people are getting offended and becoming inflamed and becoming divided. And that is the adversary's plan, to divide and conquer. That's why we're assembling here today. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And we've seen a lot of that now today. Spiritual wickedness in high places right now. Wickedness and abomination. Thy kingdom is divided. Upharsin. This is on the website of the World Health Organization. This is not some random channel or news site. They're calling right now for urgent agreement on an international deal to prepare for and prevent future pandemics. Over 100 plus global leaders are calling for this. The world is now calling for this new agreement, and it's ambitious and equitable, they say, to prepare for and prevent future pandemics. But what is that? On this website, it's called Senate.gov. This is part of the United States government website. A particular senator said, the American people know this, and we should be skeptical of any action the WHO takes to attempt to grow its power and influence. Any international body that wants to dictate our laws, especially one whose missteps have been as blatant, as deadly as the WHO's in the past, just a few years ago, rightfully deserves criticism and pushback. And yet, this administration appears poised to sign a pandemics accord that would cede American sovereignty to the WHO without the Senate's advice or consent, without the people's advice or consent. And this would allow the WHO to create laws for citizens of this country without giving anyone from this country the opportunity to deliberate or even vote on these changes. What did Daniel 5:28 say? Upharsin, your kingdom will be given. This country is not being taken, it's being given. And we've said all these things. Manah, Takal, Upharsin. Babylon the Great is fallen. All nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And we know who we're talking about now. I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins. You don't receive her place. Save your souls, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and Elohim has heard and remembered her iniquities, and rendered to her as she is rendered, to repay her double according to her works. Manah, numbering, and the judgment happens. To call the justification why the judgment is given. The judgment is given. Babylon is fallen. It's done. It's over. To call. Why? Because her sins have reached into heaven, and that's enough. The cup is full. Upharsin, what's the penalty of the judgment? Repay her double according to her works. For all the evil that this country has done, repay her double. Sobering words. Everybody knows about X marks the spot of the eclipses. How about repaying her double? Did you know that have you seen this? 2 X's. There are 2 X's. Render to her as she is rendered, and repay her double according to her works. There's not just 1 X marking the spot in this country. There's 2. The past of the eclipses literally divide the country. Another way of showing that prophecy is being fulfilled right now. Haggai 2. I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land. He said he's going to shake the heavens. What does Revelation 6 say? He's going to shake the stars and they will fall from the sky. He's going to shake the earth. What does Revelation 6 say, the 6th seal? There's going to be an earth shaking, an earthquake. He's going to shake the sea, he says in Haggai 2. What's the shaking of the sea? And every island gets moved. And he's going to shake the dry land. And what happens on the land? The mountains all get moved. Haggai 2 is talking about the 6th seal. So now we can see all these prophecies coming together, and they're also linked to the 6th seal. And when you open the 6th seal, look, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as the sackcloth of hair. And what are we all talking about right now? April 8th. Now, it says there's a great earthquake. I am no prophet. I'm not saying there's an earthquake coming on April the 8th. If I was to guess at it, I'm going to say no. I don't think so. But there's going to be a great shaking in this time period of the 6th seal, because a seal is going to last approximately X number of months until the next seal happens. The birth pangs that are happening. So there's going to be a shaking of the world, a shaking of the earth. I don't know exactly what it is, and I'm not going to tell you otherwise. But I can tell you, at the middle of where she is repaid double, repay her double, right? And 2 X's on the United States are where his signet ring has stamped the New Madrid fault. It's right there in the middle where X marks the spot. But there's 2 X's, right? Did anybody know there's a bunch of fault lines in Texas?
Yes.
And the biggest one, the Balcones fault, happens to be right where X marks the spot in Texas. They say it's an inactive fault and there's no danger, but they say a lot of things, don't they? We're listening to the plumb line of his truth, and then we look around to see what matches with his word to see how prophecy is being fulfilled, not how they're saying it's being fulfilled. These could be meaningful. They might just be coincidental. The other thing spiritually is that maybe some other type of shaking of the earth is going to happen. What about an infrastructure earthquake or a cyber earthquake? So what's the earthquake that shakes every part of the world? What about a financial earthquake, which would be a narrative to then take over and go to the digital currency right behind it?
And the 6th seal includes that the moon became as blood. There are 2 penumbral lunar eclipses, one on March 24th and 25th, and the other on September 17th and 18th, 2024. There is also a total lunar eclipse next year in March. Is one of those eclipses a physical fulfillment of the moon turning to blood? We shall see. But Haggai 2 includes this prophecy. I will destroy the powers of the kings of the nations, and I will overthrow chariots and riders, and the horses and their riders shall come down, every one by the sword striving against his brother. And the sword striving against his brother, brother against brother, sword against sword, blood and more blood being shed. It's a picture of blood. It's a time of blood. And the moon turns to blood. And in Job chapter 31, it points to the great men of the earth, the prideful ones. If I made gold my treasure, and if I too trusted the precious stone, and if too I rejoiced when my wealth was abundant, and if too I'd laid my hand on innumerable treasure, and if my heart was secretly deceived, and if I had laid my hand upon my mouth and kissed it, because they call us gods, let also then this be reckoned to me as the greatest iniquity, for I have lied against Yah. And in the midst of that warning to the prideful and the wealthy and the powerful, it says, do we not see the shining sun eclipsed and the moon waning, for they have not power to continue. The moon is waning, just like their power to continue is waning, as the battles rage and brothers fall in the time of blood. Waning is another word for dying. The moon turns to blood. It's dying by the sword, by the brother against brother, pointing to the prideful and the wealthy. And a promise from Psalm 120. The sun shall not burn you by day, neither the moon by night. May Yahweh preserve you from all evil. But in Joel it says, the sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and glorious day of Yahweh to come. The promise of Psalm 120 is there for those who stay in covenant. However, the evil comes when the sun is eclipsed and the moon and the times turn to blood.
What about the stars of heaven that they fell into earth, and the heaven departed as a scroll? Because all of the seal, this is the sixth seal that's coming, it has to all be fulfilled. Heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. What's that mean? Isaiah 34 says the same thing almost. And all the powers of the heavens shall melt, that's different, and the sky shall be rolled up as a scroll. And who is the prince of the power of the air? Satan. The powers of the heavens shall melt. Who's the power? He is. How's he described in Job 41? Leviathan. Do you not fear because preparation has been made by me? I have prepared his judgment in advance. Is that why you're not fearing him? Because otherwise you should be scared of him. Why? Because out of his mouth proceeds, as it were, burning lamps, and as it were, hearths of fire that are cast abroad. Out of his nostrils proceeds smoke of a furnace burning with the fire of his coals, his great wrath coming. And his breath is live coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. He beholds every high thing. He is the king of all that are in the waters, the seas of the world, which are the peoples of the world. He is the king of this world right now. And he can breathe fire. And he has the power of the air. And he's becoming so angry that his wrath is boiling over and coming out as fire. And he's going to be so angry, he's going to be melting the powers of his heavens, working them harder and harder. Like, an engine gets hotter the harder you rev it, right? Same thing with his powers, his networks, his artificial intelligence. It's going to be working so hard, it's going to be almost melting because he's working so hard to deceive and destroy in these last days. And that's how heaven is rolled up as a scroll part of the way, because there's more. Ezekiel 2, when he sees the throne coming down, the wheels, the chariots, the throne coming down, Yahweh says, Son of man, stand on your feet and I will speak to you. Behold, a hand stretched out to me, and in it a volume of a book. And he unrolled it before me. So think about that. Ezekiel's looking up at this, and above him is a hand rolling out a volume of a book. And in the book, it is written lamentation and mournful song and woe. And what's that? In Jeremiah 7, it says, take up a lamentation on your lips. That is a lamentation and mournful song. That's a song of woe. For Yah has reprobated, he's made these things worthless and rejected the generation that does these things. And we know we're in this generation. So the scroll unrolled before Ezekiel. And what is it? It's a prophecy and it's a warning. Lamentation and mournful song and woe is coming. Hear my words. And at this point, when the time of judgment happens, the scroll is rolled up and is taken into heaven. The heaven departs as a scroll when it is rolled together. The stars of heaven fell into the earth. Now we're looking at Revelation 6. We're focusing on that as, is this the sign of the sixth seal? The stars of heaven fell into earth as a fig tree cast away her untimely figs. That has to be fulfilled somehow. What are the stars of heaven? Everybody thinks everything up in the sky. But the stars of heaven are defined in the scriptures. He said to Abraham, I will multiply your seed as the stars in heaven. Count them if you can. And then in Deuteronomy, when he brought the nation to the promised land, see, I have made you as the stars of heaven. And the righteous shall shine as the stars in the heaven. The stars in the heaven is not looking up. It's us again. The temple, it's us, the remnant, the chosen, the called, the elect, the saints. Now, learn the parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and he puts forth the leaves, you know that the summer is nigh. So likewise, when you see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. That was a true parable because it hadn't been finished yet. That parable was finished, spoken in Revelation. When you see all of these things about the fig tree, because what does Revelation 6:13 say? The stars of heaven fell unto the earth even as a fig tree casts away her untimely figs when she's putting forth her leaves. There's premature figs that start when the leaves start coming out. They're premature. They haven't fully ripened. They haven't been fully purified. They're not sanctified yet. And those are the figs that are going to fall to the earth as a fig tree casts away her untimely figs, those that have fallen away in covenant. He said, finally, this generation shall not pass until all these things be fulfilled. And let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except first there will be a falling away of the stars of heaven to the earth, and then that man of sin shall be revealed, the son of perdition. We're at the very door. Manah, Elohim has numbered this kingdom, and he stamped it, the signs in the sky. His Aleph and Taw, the beginning and the end, he stamped this just as he stamped past kingdoms. Your kingdom is finished. It's numbered judgment. It's finished. When he opened the sixth seal, the sun became black, and that's the sign of the signet ring, because he was made as a seal, as a sign. And what about the last thing? It says he's numbered the kingdom. That man of sin is revealed, and his number is 666. The kingdom is numbered and given to the Medes and the Persians, and who's the king of Assyria? The power behind 666. There's one more number, and we're going to end this on a good note. Thy kingdom has been numbered, and I heard the number of them that were sealed. I heard the number of them that were sealed, and there were sealed of them 144,000. So as the man of sin is being revealed, so too will the 144,000 be revealed in these end times. Manah, Takal, Upharasim. Babylon the Great is fallen. It's judged. But behold, come out of her, my people. The end has come. Thank you.